Come on with me. Let's start with open line.
At the halfway point of this morning's Open Line program on a Friday morning from Okanagan Country Radio. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the program, our second in the series of a whole bunch of candidate interviews we want to bring you. This time yesterday of course we had Sally Bull, one of the candidates running for Okanagan County Commissioner. But now we are going to be doing the first of our Okanagan County Sheriff candidates interviews. And in the studio with us, Okanagan County Sheriff candidate Michael Blake. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Yes. And glad you're here. Otherwise, we'd have to read a bunch more stuff or play music, but no, just kidding. But
You'd probably rather have the music than listen to me, but that's all right. Here we are.
No, we're anxious to hear. It's good that we can help share the viewpoints of our candidates and help them to become better acquainted with our listeners. So, anyway, let's go ahead and start off. Of course, Okanagan County Sheriff, one of the 6 candidates. And
there's a whole bunch.
A whole bunch.
Yeah. So, most people are aware that the current sheriff, Frank Rogers, is retiring, and that's opened up the position, and there's 6 people running for the slot. And so it's kind of exciting, and of course it's a lot of work with 6 people running. And, as I tell everybody, every vote counts. Splitting the vote 6 ways and going into the primary with that many candidates is going to be a very interesting thing to see how it works. How the votes sort out and all that kind of stuff. I'm kind of very curious.
Yeah.
Chomping at the bit to see that happen, but that's all right.
You bet. And your affiliation, your party affiliation?
I'm running as a Republican.
Okay.
Yep. I'm conservative by nature. It's kind of an interesting thing, too. I've had a lot of conversations about that. My personal feelings are that, there's certain positions that should be partisan and certain ones that shouldn't. When I was the mayor, it was a nonpartisan position, and that made sense because your job is to, be fair to everybody. And I kind of felt like the sheriff's office should be the same way. But, if you're creating a law, it should be partisan, and if you're dispensing it, judges, sheriff, etc., shouldn't be. But I don't make the rules, so we follow that. Anyway, but so I'm running as a Republican, as all 6 are. Everyone is running as a Republican in this race. So that's what we'll end up with.
You bet. And of course, it's for all Okanagan County, and be understood. So maybe a little background about you. Because people, who's Michael Blake?
Who's Michael Blake? So I was born in Seattle. I lived there till I was 14, and my dad had the good sense to bring us out of that place and bring us over here. And I'm pretty happy about that. So from there on, I grew up here. Started out in Okanagan school and went to OMAC after that, and so kind of had the mix there, which was interesting because I got here, I got steeped in the rivalry, and all of a sudden I was thrown in enemy territory, But it was great. I have really good fond memories of high school, obviously, and did that. So got out and I went into being a mechanic. I did that for several years. I worked for Chevron when that was a garage, and Carl Lyons was my boss, a great guy. And then I went over to Damsco for a little while, worked there as a technician there, and then got into law enforcement. Really, that seemed really exciting and something I wanted to do. So I started out as a reserve, and did that for a while. And I did that with the tribe. Actually, they had a reserve program going, and got involved in that. Then they hired me on full time, so I worked there for 2 years. After that, I went to the city of Omak. Really cool time working in the city of Omak. Did that for 7.5 years, and then Frank Rogers was my sergeant there. Really liked the way that he led the group and his leadership style. So when he went to the county as sheriff, I followed him over. One of a few that did that. And I've been working at the county ever since. Very much enjoy it at the county. We have a lot of cool stuff that we do there. A lot of different programs that the county offers that you just can't get anywhere else in this county anyway. So lots of cool stuff we can do there. And we'll talk about a little bit more of that, I think, as we go along and kind of come back to it.
You bet. You bet. So what's making you want to seek this office?
So I feel like, the sheriff's office is a mix of different things. Obviously, there's law enforcement involved, and there's the political aspect of it as well, and administrative. And I kind of feel like I've been kind of groomed for that in my life. So obviously, just like most of the candidates, have a lot of experience in law enforcement, 22 total years, and done a lot of things with that. But I also have administrative experience. I was the mayor of Okanagan for 14 years, and so I learned a lot about, budgeting and public finances, hiring and unfortunately termination as well, dealing with that. But negotiating contracts, all of the things that come with the administrative work, working with state agencies and federal agencies and applying for grants and administering grants and projects and those types of things, gave me a really strong ability to do the administrative work that needs to be done. Of course, politically as well. It's, surviving 14 years as a small-town mayor. I was the longest-running mayor in Okanagan.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
wow.
I started as the youngest, and I went the longest, so I don't know what that means, but...
Great.
Couldn't find anybody else, I suppose. No, just kidding. But so I did that, and so the combination of those things, I think, has prepared me very well for the office of sheriff. I have those different components that I've done for a long time, and gets me really prepared. So I think running for sheriff is a natural progression for me.
Okay. Very good. Well, it kind of ties into your qualifications. I think we covered a lot of those. Is there anything else you see that would benefit?
So, obviously when you're connected to the community or when you're in an office like that, you should be connected to the community. And one of the things that I'm really proud of is that I've always been a volunteer with something. Mm-hmm. My whole life I felt that it's really important to give back and to be a part of the community above what you're doing on your own. And so my volunteer work, I've been a volunteer most of my life. Mm-hmm. A lot of that's been with various things. Boy Scouts, I've been involved with them on and off for 25 years or so, long time. Yeah. And then, various other things. I was on the Red Cross board for several years. I did a number of things that I do. Currently, I'm still involved in Boy Scouts. I'm a Cub Scout den leader, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I do with 8-year-olds. That's pretty great. And I'm the Okanagan County Suicide Prevention Coordinator as well outside of work. So I do those. And that really gives me a good perspective of, dealing with the public in terms of, trying to help and accomplish goals. I ran my own small business for 7 years, trying to, do stuff to make a dollar, and I really relate to the small business owners because of that. It's a very difficult thing to do. I know the importance of everything that comes in the door and everything that goes out. It becomes really important. I know, a lot of people look at shoplifting, for example, as a small thing, but to a small business owner, it's a big deal. Having response to vandalism and theft and those things, it's really important to have the support on that. So I have that perspective as well. Obviously had employees and various things throughout my career of projects that I've accomplished, and so I think pretty much well-rounded and able to do a lot of things, able to understand a lot of things. Having come from a working background as a mechanic, I understand the value of a good job and the value of a job well done. So I think that I got a lot of good experience that's going to help me in the job.
Wonderful. What do you see as some of the major issues that are facing the incoming sheriff?
So we have a lot of major issues. I'm often asked what's the most important thing. And, reality is this, that if we have the manpower to cover more things, we're going to be able to respond to all of these major issues. So I'll talk about manpower first, and then I'll go into some of the major issues that we have. As far as manpower goes, right now, we're limited to, taxes that the commissioners give us, and, we have the staff that's there. But we're not really, if we look at it, I've been very successful with grants in the past, and we can, if we think creatively, if we look at our budget creatively as what we can do, there's a lot of things that we can look at to combine together. For example, the CHP program, or Department of Justice, has a variety of grants, like the COPS hiring program. They'll allow us 75% of the total cost of officers, up to 5% of your program. So we, 1.5 officers, what we would have in our agency, that we could add to our staffing if we were successful in that grant. And there's other grants as well, like this school violence prevention program, also through DOJ. They do the same thing, 75%. And so we could add officers there. And that's really important when we're talking about, school violence, having officers in the schools, things like that. That's going to add to our ability to respond to those things. Currently, we're using the Burns Grant, the Edward Burns Grant, and that allows for the task force, for example, and some projects there. We do have a sheriff's office deputy that's assigned to the task force now, but that his wage comes out of our budget. But there's just several grants that we can utilize and combine with other things too. So you just got to think about it. Like the NOVA grant, which is the non-highway off-road vehicle grant, they allow for different grants up to $150,000. I'm sorry, up to $200,000 that we could use for patrol. For example, the state DNR utilized that grant to have up to 7 employees, or 7 law enforcement employees for them several years ago when I was working with that. And those are the kinds of things. If we could get 2 people from that, somebody from the the COPS grant, another couple of guys and gals from the school grant prevention program. I mean, we start adding up bodies and we start able to respond to more things and be able to cover more things. We can work with the other agencies that are out there. We can compile monies that way. There's just a lot of ways that we can combine things and offset costs to work together. I think it's really important in our small area that the small cities that we work with, some under contract and some that have agencies on their own, the more we can work with them and combine our resources and assets, the better coverage we're going to get, the better we're going to be able to respond. So right now, one of the major things that we're dealing with is the opioid crisis. Obviously, it's national, it's everywhere, and drugs have been with us for a long time. They've always been a problem in this country. Even back before this was a state, right? We were a territory. We still had issues there. And opioids are so highly addictive, and we're seeing, unfortunately, more deaths from that. It's just a real crisis. And I think we need to look at it holistically. We need to look at it at all the different levels that's there to try to do some prevention. And, addicts are... there's several different categories that we can look at. I kind of break it down into 3 main categories in my mind. There's those that are just getting into it or just starting, that they're looking for either an escape from problems that they're having. They're looking for a good time. Sometimes they have various things that they're looking for, various reasons they're going towards that direction. Some, it's just simply because they had an injury and they received pain medication, and now they're addicted to that medication, and their injury is healed, or maybe it's an ongoing chronic problem, and so they're looking for ways to supplement that pain relief. Various reasons that people are getting into that. And then the second category I look at is what I would call a hardcore user, somebody that they're in that lifestyle, they have no intention of changing their lifestyle, that's where they are and that's kind of where they want to be. And we get a lot of problems from that segment in terms of, they're looking to fund their habits. So they're out there, breaking into homes, stealing items, robbery, all kinds of things in order to receive the funds to supplement their habit. And we need to address that as well. I'm going to come back and kind of hit each one of these points as I go. And then there's those that are in it. They're addicted, but they want to get out, and they just don't have either the known direction to get out, or the wherewithal, or the support to get out of that lifestyle. So I want to start kind of back at the first one now as to what I can do to combat this. So first of all, we have to give people a direction. We have to give them, for those that are looking for something, those that are seeking something or trying to escape, we need to give them a direction. We need to work with volunteer groups. We need to provide opportunities for people to do service. We need to provide opportunities for people to fulfill their lives, and there's a lot of directions to go on that. And there's a lot of services, whether they're church services or others, that can provide that and fill that gap. I want to get into the schools with the young children. We need to have contact with the kids and show them that there's a good direction to go in life. Unfortunately, there's children that just don't have the support at home that they might need, or maybe a direction to go. I want to start a respect program where we get into the schools and we talk to these grade school kids about respect. And I kind of reckon that to the kids that I'm doing now in Cub Scouts. It's amazing to see. I got a whole slug of Cub Scouts come in. I had 6 new Scouts, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to teach you how to fold the flag. And, I started out with the, conversation about the flag and what it means and the colors and all those different things and what they represent, and that it represents our freedom and our country and the people that went before and made this flag a reality, made this country a reality, and talked about all that stuff and tried to really give that respect to the flag. And then we started folding it, and I started showing them how. I was like, okay, this corner's got to be right here, just perfect. And they're like, oh, well, that's good enough. And I'm like, no, this is our flag. This is really, really important. You got to, and by the time we got this flag folded, it was just amazing, the transformation, because they're 8-year-olds, so they're bouncing around and running around. And by the time we were done, they're standing tall and they're holding this flag, and they all got to hold the flag when it says folded, and there's they're beaming and their chest puffed up, and they just have this respect for the flag that they, didn't necessarily have before. And it's just really, that is just an awesome thing to instill that into a kid, respect for the flag. But, more importantly, as we get into the school, we can teach them, respect for themselves, respect for each other, respect for their teacher, respect for authority, respect for our flag and our country. And I think that's going to help us with the bullying in the school. It's going to help a lot of things. There's no button that we can push that makes everything perfect, or whatever. But there's things we can do to help influence in the right direction, and we can work towards that. As far as the opioid addiction, that is, they're steeped in that, and that's where they feel like they want to be, even though maybe deep down they want to get out, but they're acting like they want to stay there. That's where we need to have, containment, a project of containment, where we keep these guys, we're on top of it, we're looking at them, we're watching them. If they commit crimes, we investigate them thoroughly, we make arrests, we really do our best to be aggressive enforcement in that area and contain the problem that they're creating. And then moving on to those that want to get out, we need to work with some of the programs that are in place, like drug court, for example. Gives them an opportunity to, get out of jail, even though they plead guilty. It gives them an opportunity to go home, be with their family, start a job, those kinds of things. But there's heavy restrictions on it. There are heavy restrictions on who they're with, where to go. There's, urinalysis to make sure on a regular basis to make sure they're not using, and all that kind of stuff. Drug court, I think, is going to be a powerful tool for us, especially as we go on and it expands. But there's other agencies that are doing a lot of good work, and some that are new and have started, and I really want to support those as well. So, like, for example, the New Start Clinic, they have in Brewster, and then they have an office at OBHC where, they're doing a Suboxone clinic where they're really monitoring people that are trying to get out of the opioids. They have kind of a holistic approach to the whole process, doing counseling and also the Suboxone, and just really trying to provide that support for that group that wants to get out, that wants to recover. It gives them what they need, and then, of course, they can follow up with OBHC, which is Okanagan Behavioral Health Care, to do inpatient treatment and outpatient treatment and all of the things that give them that support as they go. Okanagan County Community Coalition, they do a lot of good programs with, going back to that first segment of, where, looking for something. They talk a lot about, drug prevention and different things that help do it, like the drug take-back program that we have to, get rid of opioids out of the home so that they're not started, things like that. I wanted to kind of shift gears. It looks like
we have about 6-7 minutes left.
I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about some of the other experience that I have. One of the things that's really important is contracting and employees, and I really enjoy that much. Some people hate that part of life, but I've been able to have a kind of an interesting balance because as mayor, I was directly negotiating the contracts to the unions of the city. And so we had 2 unions, and I negotiated several contracts with them as the administrative side. And then for most of my career, I was an OMAC, and throughout my career here as the sheriff's office, I've been the contract negotiator for the union side or the guild side.
Oh, boy.
And so it's an interesting thing because I've sat on both sides of the table for many, many contracts and negotiations. The one nice thing about that is I kind of got a good understanding of both sides, their perspectives, what's fair, what's not fair, and it really actually makes it a pretty smooth negotiation with our contracts. This year we sat down a couple of times. We came up with a fair proposal. They agreed it was fair, and we moved on. And so it's really kind of, it's good to get that experience, to have that experience, and to do that. The amount of budgets that I've, created, developed, and worked with, the clerk to formulate and refine has really given me good experience as well. So I've been able to do that, many times. And I've really enjoyed kind of the 2 components between law enforcement and administration and politics, and I'm kind of excited to meld them in the office of the sheriff. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I think that sets me apart a little bit, from some of the people who are running. But I don't spend a lot of time talking about, the other candidates. My focus is I'm running for the office. I'm not running against anybody. I'm running for that office. And so I really focus my time that way and go that. I know that everybody has their own methods, and be it as it may, that's where I'm headed. So it's kind of nice to talk to people and listen to their concerns and be able to have answers for them. I feel like I've got a lot of ideas in a lot of different areas, and I could go on for a long time on this show. I could fill your whole hour. But it's pretty cool to get out there and talk to people all throughout the county and hear what they have to say and talk about the sheriff's office. I knock on doors and they look at me and they're like, well, who are you? And I introduce myself, and I'm Michael Blake. I'm running for sheriff, and all of a sudden they perk up and say, oh, hey, I'd love to talk to you about that. So everybody has, their own concerns and their own direction they'd like to see the office go, and it's pretty cool to get out and talk to people about that. I enjoy it a lot. But anyway, one of the people, they asked me, well, what's your best asset? And I like to say, well, my wife. That's my best asset. She's awesome. Supports me wholly. And I think I just embarrassed her. She just turned 2 shades of red. But it's true. A bunch of great ideas about marketing and what we do. And it's really cool getting out. Like, she bought a bunch of these hats, little hats. We're, going down these celebrations. And you set up those and you try to attract people there. And she bought all these hats. And I'm like, okay, they're kind of cool. They're, red, white, and blue. That's kind of a neat hat. And then she sits down and she starts putting my bumper sticker on the front of every these hats. I'm like, okay, that's even better. It advertises me. I said, but who's going to wear this hat? And then she starts handing these out. All these little kids are running around wearing my hat with my name on their forehead. It's like, oh, that's genius, that girl. And so it's just really fun, things like that, and just getting out there. And with the kids, we're making buttons and stuff, and they get to color their buttons. It's just, I love being out with the public. So that stuff has been fun for me, regardless of what happens with the whole race. But I've just been really kind of enjoying it and doing those kinds of things. But anyway, you had another question about contact info was on here. Right,
and also there's chances, I talked about them during our little community calendar segment. I mean, there's some forums and debates coming up, but lots of opportunities for folks to hear from you again in other venues. But yeah, the time remaining, it'd be good to how folks can reach you and things like that.
Yeah, so several methods to reach me. You can get a hold of me on my Facebook page, Blake for Sheriff. And then you can, what's the actual page thing? I'm not the Facebook genius on this, I'll tell you that.
At Blake for Sheriff 2018.
At Blake for Sheriff 2018. My email is blakeforsheriff@gmail.com, and I have a web page where we're trying to put all of our little videos that we're doing, a link to that, blakeforsheriff.com.
All right. Well, just a couple of minutes left. Anything else you want to make?
Well, yeah, just encourage everybody to come out to the debates. We got a few coming up. We've got the Farm Bureau coming up on the 16th, and that's going to be at the PAC at 6 p.m. We talked about that. Mm-hmm. The Twisk Grange is going to...
Oh, Twisk Grange, okay.
They're going to have a debate. That's going to be July 17th at 6 p.m. And then the Okanagan Grange is going to be July 19th at 6 p.m. Everybody likes 6 p.m. I guess that's a good time.
Yeah.
We're going to be up at the Concanelli Parade tomorrow, July 7th. Mm-hmm. We're going to have go through the parade and hand out some information, talk to people there. We're going to be down at the Apple Pie Jamboree in Pateros. That's going to be July 20th and 21st. So they're, having a lot going on down there.
Yeah.
And they always have the best apple pie down there. That's really good. Yep. So a lot of different things that you can come out and debate and discuss. And I'm always willing to answer any questions, good, bad, or indifferent. So come on down and check us out.
All right. Well, Michael, thank you for spending some time with us here, informing us about the great things that you want to do as sheriff, and wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
All right. We'll take one more last break on this morning's Open Line program and tell you what's coming up in the days ahead.